I had been married for 20 years and ended up a single mom of 9 children. And while I found an amazing man that took on 9 stepchildren, you might be wondering, what was that like for the children? When my middle ones, my elementary children, were younger, going through this transition, they went from praying that God would heal their daddy and heal mommy and daddy's relationship to all of a sudden praying that mommy would find a new daddy and God would give them a new daddy. You know, I didn't talk to them about anything. I never told the children when I was dating someone, so they didn't know that I had even been dating anyone. And I remember having this conversation. I was taking my children to school, and my 8-year-old son was in the front seat, and he was sitting there, and he was like, "Mom, are you going to find a new husband?" And I was like, I think so. If God wants me to have a new husband, then I'm sure he'll bring someone. And he goes, "Yeah, all right." It was just the sweetest conversation, but it told me that God was totally preparing their hearts. And the older children, I found out many years later, had actually been praying that we would get divorced, so their hearts were kind of already there. But it was really amazing to watch this transition of, like, Travis and I had been praying a lot when we were dating, and we knew that things were getting really serious, that God would prepare the hearts of the children. And he totally answered that prayer. You know, our first date, I knew right away that Travis could clearly hear it from God, because that very first date, I only knew him a few hours, and he already told me back some things that was like real special between God and I. And I hadn't told anybody. It was something very personal, and I'm like, dang, this guy, he just read my mail. But so I thought, okay, if he can clearly hear from God, all he needs is like a humble heart to follow God, and I could totally follow that anywhere. I trust that because I trust God, right? As we got to know each other, it's like God would confirm this and this and this, all these little things to me. And one of the things that I thought was really cool was that, those of you that know Travis, he's crazy talented at a lot of things. And most guys that I had dated before, they would start off with giving me their laundry list of how great they were and all the things that they were talented in, or whatever. And it was kind of like buried treasure. I had to find it as I was dating Travis. And it was exciting. It made it more exciting as we were dating, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know you played the drums. Oh, you're actually a really good drummer, and just little layers of things here and there. So that was really fun to discover. And I really knew that he was the one when I had gone to visit him in New York, and I saw him on his own turf, met his family, all his family, and his nieces. I just saw him interact with his nieces, and it was just so endearing. And I thought, all right, it's like it was, God confirmed it. It might be important to note that during this whole time, we had talked about Travis being coached by this guy named Ravi. Well, I ended up getting coached by him as well. And then eventually when we got engaged, he coached us together and kind of did premarital counseling. And because we had so much at stake, and we were both one to seek out wisdom and counsel. I thought that was really wise in this particular situation, but it was extremely helpful anyway.
Yeah.
And I had been told, by a lot of different sources and just reading things, that when stepchildren meet the new parent for the first time, that they should probably do it on neutral ground, so it's not their turf, it's not his turf, but it's someplace kind of neutral. And so it was almost Christmas time, and all of my family in California were getting together, and so we actually just all went out there, and it was really sweet because my older daughters actually flew out there as well. My one daughter was in Ohio married, and she flew out with her husband. And then my other daughter came out with her boyfriend at the time, and he actually proposed when we were there. And so it was really sweet. Even my soon-to-be son-in-law, everybody all got to meet Travis at the same time. And it was on neutral ground. And it was just a really sweet time together. And my youngest was 3 at the time. And when she met him, she asked him, I think even the same day she met you, maybe the next day, she was like, "Are you my new dad?" And he's like, "Oh, no." He's like, and she's like, are you going to be my new dad? He's like, well, maybe someday I'll be your stepdad, And he was really gentle with her, but
Oh, she was 3.
yeah. And so that's kind of how they met. And so we were together maybe like 3 days during that time period. And he met all the family, my parents, my brother, my aunts and uncles.
Yeah.
And it's like fire hose probably for you.
Yeah, with the whole family in like one weekend.
Yeah. And so we go back our ways. And then my 3-year-old at home, she's 3. She's got kind of a limited vocabulary. And she says to me, I had never heard her say the word awesome before. And she goes, Mom, when are we going to see the awesome dad again? And I was like, the what, honey? Like, what did you just say? And I'm like, oh, do you mean Travis? And she's like, yeah, when do we get to see him again? So I was like, well, he's not your dad, but, we'll probably get to see him again sometime soon. But it was clearly he made a big impression on her. So, but I wanted Travis to share just maybe some of that from his perspective, but also some of the things that like kind of prepared him, because obviously that was a much bigger transition for him than it probably was for us. So
yeah, it was major culture shock going from being single for 9 years to now having 10 people in a household, 11 people in a household, whatever it was. I think it was 10 in the household. Anyway, it was just a very big shock. But I feel like along the way, kind of throughout the 9 years that I was single, between teaching martial arts, between having nieces that I was really, really close with, and literally from the time they were born all the way up through, they're actually the same age as Selah, so, around 13, 14 years old is the older one, and the younger one is 12. So it's very similar age ranges that I was getting into. So really God prepared me along the way and kind of gave me different things that would prepare me for that particular endeavor.
And you were so close to your nieces. I mean,
I actually lived with them. Yeah,
a short while. And
yeah, so I was living with them for probably like 6 months when I moved up from New York City to upstate New York, and I would tell them bedtime stories every single night that I just made up on the spot. And we would do these hilarious bedtime stories, and it was like the thing, like Uncle Trav has to tuck the girls in, and they just loved hearing those stories. And I probably did that 9 out of 10 nights. So what transferred over, I think, really well was, obviously, in teaching Taekwondo, I was very organized. I don't want to say strict, but I was very regimented, almost like military. And the children really needed that, because just being you, it's hard to implement all of the strategies that you want to when there's only one parent, because there's literally 9 on 1. So having 2 parents in the home, we were able to really work well with each other. So we got like color-coded plates, and
yeah, he was like, and he was really gentle too. He's like, well, okay, so, babe, I feel like I've got some ideas, and like, maybe we can implement. He was just really sweet and gentle about it. Yeah. And like, what do you think about this? And one of the things was like, he wanted everybody to have their own color. So they'd have their own color plates, on colored toothbrushes, stuff like that. And so like, for instance, Aaron's were all red, so if a plate was left out that was red, we know, oh, Aaron left his plate out or whatever. Yeah. So another layer of accountability, and also, everyone had their own thing that they're responsible for. And so he told me things like that, and I was like, yeah, okay, yeah. Like, I'm thinking, yeah, all right, we'll see. I'll just kind of let you do your thing. But it actually is stuck, and they've, now we're here almost 5 years later, and, it's working well.
It's actually working, yeah. So they still use,
surprise.
For the most part, they still use the correct color plates. Each one has like their own cubby where they put their shoes when they come in the front door. So they got to take their shoes off right away, put them in their cubby. So all these little things that God gave me to implement, whether it just be kind of keeping things organized or scheduling things. And I mean, Shannon used to be late pretty dramatically to everything, anywhere from half an hour to 10 hours late. So, now she's honestly on time, like 90% of the time. So everyone in her family is like, what happened to you? So things have definitely changed, but it was a collaborative effort. If it was just me trying to ram it down everybody's throat, it wouldn't have worked. There would have been the exact opposite effect, because that's what happens when you try to control somebody. But it was with this thing, it was like this collaborative effort, and the children actually liked it because children want to have structure because I think it makes them feel safe. So when they had somebody that actually cared about them, like a father figure that actually cared about them, was actually willing to sow time in, and every single night, same time, 8 or 8:30, every single night after dinner, we would do Bible time before they went to bed. And then, at the end of Bible time, I know it sounds silly, we'd just say, okay, hugs and beds. And they would come over and give us a hug, say goodnight, I love you, and then they would go off to bed. So it was like just these little kind of breadcrumbs that would make them feel safe and make them feel loved and cared for by me, and obviously by their mom, who they already knew loved them. It was like, wow, I can actually trust this guy. He's consistent. He does what he says. He's regimented, and he practices what he preaches. Like if I tell them, do something, I'm actually doing it. So I'm leading by example, and then I would point it out to them if they were, misbehaving or not doing that thing properly. And results started coming very quickly.
Yeah, but then, if you'd mess up,
Yeah, and if I would mess up, I would apologize. If I thought somebody did something wrong and I reprimanded them for it or corrected them for it, and then they didn't actually do it wrong, I would immediately go to them. And I do that to this day if I'm wrong about something, whether it's with my wife or whether it's with a friend or a child. I will go and apologize and say, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do that, or I didn't know that I was wrong. Will you please forgive me? And, the forgiveness is immediate because we love each other. So it's grown into something pretty incredible from something that was really overwhelming. I mean, at first I was like, couldn't breathe. Sometimes I'd literally have to just go, I need to leave for like half an hour to an hour or 5 hours and just get away and, just give me grace.
You'd like retreat to your room
Yeah,
for a little while.
like give me grace because I'm
Bedroom's
like,
off-limits, yeah.
I need a break, right? 9
He's
years
still
alone.
living by himself.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's not like that anymore. Like very rarely do I need to like back away and have time. I think men are just built like that, but it's just life now. It's just I don't even remember life without it, to be honest with you. So
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely hard. There's hard scattered all throughout here. So, this isn't all like cupcakes and roses,
Nope.
but that's kind of how the beginning happened. And, if you guys have any questions, further than this and just other things you want us to touch on, just drop it in the comments and maybe we can make some videos, addressing those things.
yeah.
Thanks for watching.